Welcome to the Oso Spurs podcast, where tonight we have a very special guest, a legend from the Fighting Cock and also the owner of Filthy Shambles. Spooky, how are you, mate?
I'm all right. Thank you for inviting me. So it's something a bit different. Usually I'm recording my podcast today on a Monday evening, so it's good not to have to worry about recording and all the other technical stuff. So thanks. Night off for me.
Pleasure. Well, you're welcome on every Monday then. We've got Johnny over in Dublin. How are you, mate?
I'm really good, thanks, Jim. Yeah, how are you, mate?
I'm doing well, thanks. Good. And we've got Deej. How are you, sir?
Doing good.
Good to have you all. So, despite nothing really happening, it feels like lots is happening at the moment in a weird way. Should we go back a bit and just start with the Shakhtar game? I know we've had a lot blowing up around Harry Kane over the last few hours once again, but let's save that for the latter part of the pod. Johnny, you were there, weren't you? What did you make? What was the atmosphere like at the ground?
So I was in the safe standing part of the South Stand, which I'd never been in before. So that as an experience in itself was something I really enjoyed. Took me back a few decades to when you actually was able to do that back in the day. So that was good. I mean, there was a good buzz. Yeah, I was there with another lad who'd not been for very many years. It's his first trip to the ground. The atmosphere is like pre-season, obviously, but it was a bit different because of Postecoglu's first game. A lot of family folk there. I'm not making judgments, but in the Bricklayers before, lots of families in the Bricklayers, including very young children in the back, which was interesting. But yeah, and it was a good buzz. And I think there's obviously the Kane spectre is sort of hovering over everything, really. And I guess you're not going to, because a lot of people go to that game that wouldn't get to, league matches, there's always going to be a bit of a different kind of vibe. But, I mean, clearly the football is really what dictates the feelings inside the ground. And from last year, which was pretty grim almost the entire way through, it was nice to actually be watching football that got people excited. And there's a few sort of hairy moments along the way, but it's great to be present and to witness firsthand the actual significant difference that we all looking forward to. So I thought it was good. It was a good atmosphere. I just you're not going to, somebody, I think it was Stu was saying how present was the kind of Kane we want you to stay aspect to the crowd, and it wasn't brilliant. I was like, that was the most common chant, I would say, but like, oh yeah,
we're getting in dangerous territory of starting the Kane talk.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Sorry. I suppose it's just, we can't ignore it, and it's in everything that's connected to the club at the moment. But no, it was really good. It was great to be back after the Brentford games the last time we were there. So
yeah,
certainly an improvement on that.
And in terms of the football, guys, Spooky, you watched the game as well, didn't you? Did it meet the expectations of, pretty much an opposite experience of what we had under Conte? What were your thoughts on that?
You could take the players down to the local park and just tell them to have a kickabout, and that'd be better than what we've got under Conte. Do you know what I mean? It's aggressive, it's quick to feet, there's passing movements, it's on the front foot, all the things that you expect to see from a Spurs side. Yeah, okay, defensively we have problems. The high line does concern me. If you think beyond pre-season, you think about the quality of the Premier League, you only need to make one mistake. The Premier League at the very highest level is about punishing mistakes. If you're gonna be easy to get through defensively, then you're gonna cause yourself more problems. But offensively, which was also arguably an issue last season, what have we had, 100 attempted shots or thereabouts on target? In three games. Granted, they are pre-season games, but it's just the fluidity. Just the there's an urgency to our play, and we're not holding on to the ball, and we're not kind of just recycling the ball in the middle of the park. These are really basic things, and other supporters might listen in and laugh, like, you're just talking about attacking football, mate. But we were starved of it. We never had that under Conte. It was far too pragmatic and far too deliberate, and in the end, boring and turgid, and counterproductive. So I am more than happy in terms of what we're seeing football-wise, but also with the caveat that I know it's going to take 6 months, maybe the entire season, to actually be like a proper team from defence to attack. This goes the same with the goalkeeper. At the minute, I think this the fan base. We're very nervous. We have reason to be nervous, and therefore I think we kind of overanalyze everything. Like it's what we're seeing now is, for some people, they think that's the end product. The reality is the keeper's got to settle in. The defence, we need players in. And the rest of the team still needs defining, but I'm okay. I'm more than okay. I'm enjoying it. I've enjoyed this pre-season. I usually don't pay any attention, but this pre-season's been okay.
Yeah, and Deej, what about you? Anything that stood out from the game as well tactically that you thought was or was not expected? I mean, for me on paper, it's all kind of exactly how I'd hoped and expected it to go. But what about you?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think it's more or less what was expected, but that's like kind of unexpected watching. I was like, I knew what to expect because of what I know about Ange and from the previous games, but just like looking at the team and thinking back to last season, like these are just completely different. Just everything is completely different, and I'm so much happier for it. I thought that our defense, while it was shaky, I thought it looked a lot better with Emerson as our right back, and I would hope he would be our starter week 1. I think Destiny looks bright. I think that he will definitely get caught out being too high because he's used to playing wing back, and that's something that he'll have to adjust for. I thought that there were some interesting stuff between him and Son, where usually Ange likes to invert his fullbacks, but there were times where Son would come into the half space and Udogie would go out wide. So I think that's an interesting wrinkle to watch for on that side. I thought that Sarr looked really, really good. I hate that he didn't get more time this past season, but whatever, man. I'm gonna stop talking about last season from this point forward. I thought that Kulusevski grew into the game, which is all you can really ask for in a preseason match. Get fitness. I thought by the end of the game, he looked brilliant. Really could tell he wanted a goal. Didn't get there, but was creative, and yeah, thought everything looked really good.
Mute myself, haven't I? Yeah, it doesn't appear to be any glaring issue in the squad in terms of anyone being particularly unhappy or anything like that. It's interesting though. There's always going to be winners and losers in football, isn't there? But Kulusevski, you were speaking about then, he's been struggling for a little while now. It was started midway through last season when his injury started to kick in. But I'm sensing even now he's still got a lot to prove to Ange to get a place in the team at the moment. And I know a lot of us were kind of, you're mad, of course we should re-sign him. And I'm glad we have. I'm sure he's a young player, and he's, 30 million's nothing in today's kind of football transfer market. But I don't know about you guys, but I kind of feel like he's not the shoo-in he once appeared to be when we first signed him from Juventus. But that gives other players opportunity at the moment. And talking of which, it was just a shame we haven't been able to see Richarlison have a proper run out yet, because I think he's going to be a man who rejuvenates his career a little bit. I
think the Barcelona game tomorrow, he's probably going to be starting in that. And I think he did. Apparently, he had a little knock or something.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things I liked about the game yesterday, was that unlike the two previous games over in Asia and Australia, that he more or less, like most, I think there were only 4 substitutions in the whole game, and it wasn't until the 76th minute that the first substitution was made. So there was proper, obviously got to do that building up for the first league game in less than a week. But I thought that was, and significantly, obviously, the players that, everybody obviously had to put in a long shift. So, that was really good. And there's still, like you said about the players that aren't in the 11, I think they're doing a lot of 11v11s apparently in training, because the squad is as over heavy as it is.
Yeah.
There's definitely players in there. I think Kulusevski is, I mean, really, really talented. I'm really excited about him, and I know that there's justification for criticism, but I don't think there was any. I don't think it's worse really than other,
I don't think it's
the squad.
Yeah, and he's going to have multiple opportunities, isn't he? There's going to be injuries. There's going to be rotation in the way we play. There's also that number 10 role that people are itching to see him in. I'm sure that Maddison's not going to play every single game of the season in the Cups as well, so you might see that. But Spook, is there anyone for you that's kind of been the person you thought, okay, I didn't actually think of you before, but I'm actually quite excited to see you playing next season?
I think it's more the fact that you could pick out. I mean, you've kind of alluded to it. There's so many players that have like a redemption arc, you know, to like Richarlison. Obviously, he scored once in the league last season.
Yeah,
a couple of times in the Champions League. I know a couple offside and whatever else. But yes, he played. He didn't really play in his rightful position, and there's 100 other things going on as well. You could argue that he makes the very easy things look quite uncomfortable, and then there'd be moments where he shows genuine Brazilian ability, and you think, oh, hello, like there is a player here. He can be more than useful. But yeah, I mean, if you look through the team, you look at Basuma, who was absolutely he's world class, you know, in that season or two before he signed for us, and then Conte didn't fancy him. You know, we didn't see Basuma. We didn't see an expressive Basuma under Conte. He was instructed to play disciplined football and look nervous doing so. I don't think there's to answer your question. I don't think there's a player who I'm thinking, oh, hello, like I wasn't expecting this. It's more a case of, oh, hello, people waking up again. You know, players look happy. Players, and this is going by again Basuma dancing on Instagram. I mean, it's not exactly quality, insightful punditry from me, but what it tells me is these guys are just they are human and they seem to be a bit more relaxed. That's not to say that Ange isn't a strict, you know, manager who expects certain standards, but I think he also sees the players and plays them where they need to be played, and allows them to play the football they're capable of. Again, really simple things. I don't know why, like, Spurs didn't pay me 15 million quid a year to give the manager. We would have got relegated, to be fair. But my point being is that we have been starved of just the basics, and I think we have got so many good players at Tottenham who I don't think have been allowed to showcase that. And collectively as well, you know, the synergy has been fragmented, you know, for the last few seasons. So I'm hyped to see a lot of these players come good. I don't know about the long-standing ones. You know, people might react badly to me mentioning Eric Dyer, who I don't know if he's injured at the minute. He hasn't played that much. There's certain players where it's part of the whole narrative of they should move on, and I don't disagree. There are players who probably should move on, but you never know. You know, it's coaching. It's just it comes down to coaching as much as anything. And Conte didn't fancy half of our players, so what are you going to do squad wise? It's looking good. Like this is very, very early in pre-season.
It is. And I think what we're also seeing as well is what's so exciting, like you touched on there, Spook, is there's not one, but there's several players that could, you know, you would not be shocked at all if you went we want you to sign an extension, whereas 12 months ago, Lo Celso being one of the obvious ones there, we were saying, get out of the club. Just, you don't want to be here. You only want to play for Argentina. All those kind of, you know, assumptions we make up as fans when we don't like someone and want them gone. We also told the whole world as a collective fan base that Jed Spence was this, you know, incredibly exciting player who was going to take the league by storm, but Conte just wouldn't play him because he was young and it wasn't his signing. And now Ange has decided today that he's not part of the squad. So if you believe what you read, he's up for sale. Suddenly the whole fan base is united that, yeah, he's rubbish and we should get rid of him. It's just so reactionary, the whole thing. But the one thing I'd say which is so nice moment is the fan base seem mostly all united. But we know what happens. One defeat and then half of them lose their footing. And then it all starts kicking off again.
I think the fan base, sorry, mate, just to quickly say, the fan base outside of social media will back the team. When you go to the games or you're watching it from home, you're backing the team. I think on social media, it's a cartoon version of reality. I think it's exaggerations. The economy is anger. The economy is being upset about something. You can't sit on the fence because that's boring. So don't do what I do most of the time and take social media seriously. It's not worth it. Sorry, mate.
No worries. I was just gonna say, I think I kind of feel bad for Spence because I think that I still think that there's a player there. He just got frozen out of the team by Conte, and then he's kind of been left up a creek without a paddle because we have a £45 million, or I don't remember what denomination, but 45 million player in Porro who has to play, and then we have Emerson, who is our most tenured right back and clearly fits the system at least decently well for the time being. So that kind of just leaves him without much playing time, and especially because we don't have any European football, there's really no place for him to get a run in unless we kind of throw out Porro, which I don't think is going to happen.
No. I think if we were in Europe, we might not be so quick to offload him, but we're not. And it'd be a shame for him to see his career dwindling away, sat on our bench as well. But just on Royale, again, I just think that guy deserves so much credit for not just turning it around, but turning it around in a toxic, miserable environment where the one group of fans who are supposed to support you are partially booing you off the pitch in your own stadium, even though they know, you've spent £1 million on your own extracurricular, scientific methods to try and improve yourself as a footballer, and people say you're not good enough, get out, simply based on 60 minutes of football playing in a system that doesn't suit you at all. But that guy deserves every bit of good fortune that can come to him as a human being. So the other person we've been linked with is this Alejo Veliz. Now, some people will say it's Kane's replacement, it's the Kane money or whatever it is, but I don't really think that. I don't know about you guys. It feels more like we've identified a young prospect who's good at football. We're probably going to sign him and loan him back out, or he might. There's rumours that we're going to sign him and he's going to stay in Argentina for another year. There's a mixture of reports going around. We don't know for sure. Has anyone kind of looked him up? My only knowledge of the guy is that he's not your traditional Argentinian striker in the sense he's big, likes to use his head. He's a bit more physical than your traditional Argentinian striker, but that's about as far as my knowledge goes on the guy.
I mean, on the one hand, he's 19, so he's got a lot of time before he kind of fills out I don't know. But he is very, very good in the air. Like, there are some of his... I watched a bit of him, mostly just YouTube compilations. I've been busy this weekend, but there are some goals where he will use his head where I think any other footballer would just like trap it or bring it down and then shoot. But he can generate a lot of power from the air. He's definitely just an out and out 9. Stick him up front, hoof balls into the box, and he'll try to get onto the end of them. So I don't think that he's definitely not a player that will see a ton of minutes for us this season outside of maybe early round cup games. If he stays, I would assume he'd go on loan to from what I heard, I don't think he'll be going back to Argentina, but who knows? I mean, obviously no one really knows until it happens, but I would assume he'd go on loan, but I can see him being a sort of option as someone who we bring on if we're in a position where someone's playing a low block and we need a goal. He is definitely an aerial threat that we could utilize.
Yeah. Johnny, I saw you'd done some homework for this pod. Was he one of the pieces of your homework?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, wasn't able to dig down too deep, like from what Dee just said. The other thing that's sort of playing out in terms of media is the whole Tim Vickery interview, where he was not. He had lots of doubts about whether this guy was going to actually follow in the footsteps of a bunch of Argentinians that I didn't recognise the names of, who's come over and not succeeded in English football. But I think again it was Stu that said that he'd said that Paulinho was like the absolute bee's knees and that Caicedo was really not up to it. So clearly, I mean, sure, you can look at any pundit and you're going to find stuff that they've got right and stuff they've got wrong. But there's another piece of Football London where Rob Guest was talking to a South American Argentinian sports writer called Tom Robinson, and he was much more he was much more complimentary about Felice, and basically sort of he was making the argument like Gigi was just saying, because physicality, he does sort of, he thinks he would be in the mold of an English number 9, or the English system. So I don't know. Like I did the YouTube compilation as well, but like again, the very frivolous knee-jerk and instant reaction you make from just seeing the goals and stuff that he's put in. He had a lot of headers, but it's kind of like the bits that you see. It's like that confidence that young players have, and they don't fear things, and they just kind of like they still really love football, and they think they're probably better than they are. And he kind of is exuding that vibe of confidence and strength. Looked pretty quick. Looked pretty like a lot of the goals were like first touch finishes, stuff like. I don't know. He looked like a really useful number 9. I mean, somebody who's not going to get that many minutes, but could come off the bench and do a job possibly.
I guess even Haaland at 19 years old, half of the world was calling him a fraud. So like you're just never going to know. At this point, the social media thing is so funny with these kind of players that no one knows anything about, though, isn't it? Because people will go on there and they'll latch on to someone who's got an Argentinian flag. He must know everything about, or she must know everything about this footballer because they're based in the country and they're from there, and they look around and they find one that tells them exactly what they want to hear. That said person is incredible, and everyone latches onto them. We had it with a few now very prominent Italian accounts on social media with Conte. And we had it with a few Brazilian ones when we signed Paulinho, and they all kicked off, and everyone just looks for what they want to hear. And none of us really know, do we? It's just
the thing is, it's like, I mean, I remember the Berbatov when we were signing him, and I remember watching his YouTube comps, and they were tap-ins. And I remember my uncle calling me and saying, "What we got here? We got someone who's tapping the ball in from 3 yards out." And like, look at Berbatov as a player, like an absolute magician, right? And I'm really like aging myself here, but Sergei Rebrov, I don't think YouTube even existed back then.
No.
So on the Glory forum, you'd get MP4s being shared. And he was banging them in from 35 yards out, 30 yards out. There was screamer after screamer after screamer. Look, at the end of the day, you can listen to experts. Yeah. You're either going to be right or wrong. It's a 50-50 thing. Sometimes you're in the middle somewhere. Like, the variables are it's in our control now, how we coach this guy, what we do with him. I don't know whether apparently Ange likes him. Has he seen him play? Does he know anything about him? And he wants to keep him. So he might come off the bench, but we've got Dane Scarlett there. I'm not sure what's happening with Troy. So Spurs have got options. I don't mind us signing these types of players. I think it harks back to spending £5 million on Dele Alli, and no one really expected him to play as quickly as he did for Tottenham. These are not hit the ground running types of players. But Spurs are the kings of accidental glory. Sometimes there's no logic to what we do. It just somehow we fall on our feet even when we least expect it. I think that's our curse because we don't have a blueprint for anything. And then we fall into what we would perceive as tangible momentum. And then I think everyone at the club goes, "Oh, we've got it right. Let's crack on." And it's like, no, we haven't got it right. This is pure luck or circumstantial. Let's just try and consolidate this now. So I'm hearing good things out of Tottenham. Like, people talk, this is an ITK, by the way, but just people are making the right decisions behind the scenes. There's a lot of kind of data stuff. As long as we are backing up the data with, again, with a little bit of pragmatism, does this player, is he a good fit for the Premier League and all these other little bits and pieces that people get paid a lot of money to analyse. As long as we're doing due diligence with that, I will just sit back with some popcorn, not the game because that'd be weird, and then just see what happens. Just at this point, I'm just happy that there are players signing for us that are happy to play for us. look at Maddison. Like the guy seems to be absolutely flying because he's wearing a Spurs shirt. You know, all this kind of disparaging stuff about who wants to join Tottenham, you know, perpetual losers and all the rest of it that comes with the narrative. Players want to play for us. We are, believe it or not, still a big team, big club, big support, amazing stadium, lots of great players. So, yeah, I've got no kind of benchmark for this kid. If he goes out on loan, great. If he stays, even better.
I think we need to detach ourselves a bit from overly fixating on these kind of situations as a fan base. Anyway, you don't see the smelly lot down the road like you're overly crying about, you know, some youth player they signed for £10 million that's not on the squad. All they care about is who they're going to beat. Yeah.
2 seasons ago, they definitely were. I remember. But my personal favorite stat about Feliz is this season, his first goal was a game winner against a team in Argentina called Arsenal. So.
Oh, there you go. That's a nice stat. So he's already got. But yeah, it does feel like. Go on, sorry, John.
Sorry, no, it's just to say what Spooky was saying there about, like, you know, that we've kind of lucked out on occasions, and there hasn't been maybe a whole big blueprint. Like, I do think that's one of the things about Postecoglu, and I know it's still early days with him as well. But looking at his career, there's a consistency there in his approach, and he's certainly showing no signs of being intimidated by the fact he's at this big club and with this shiny stadium and everything else, and this media scrutiny, the way he's handling the unmentionable that we'll have to mention later on. You know, there's one of the things that was annoying me slightly, and the whole kind of panic over the centre back, which I totally understood because it was our number one area to address. But the fact that he did bring everyone to Australia, the fact that he's obviously took the month of July to check out, he's very much, isn't he, about the character of the players. Like, you know, obviously in Dumbley's the biggest example of somebody with incredible talent but a shit attitude, and he's made the decisions, and things start to happen within a week of coming back to London, and I would think that at the moment there's lots of signs there to suggest that, you know, the fact he's got a 4-year contract, if we have patience, hopefully there's a lot to get behind and enjoy. There's a structure now, there's a consistency, there's a lot to work with that's positive, and we've got a guy in charge who knows what he wants to do, and at the moment it's just like, is he being trusted, is he being backed? Now we've got Van de Ven coming through the door. You know, there's progress from that point of view, which is good.
It's also just nice having a manager who goes, in all his interviews, it's like, I've got what I've got, I'm not going to whine about it.
Yeah.
It's just like, whereas our previous few managers would just make such a show of everything they didn't have, they're like prepping an excuse. But I just wanted to say, like, I know you mentioned it a bit, like, we very kind of, it's highs and lows of Spurs and decision making. It always seems to be, you either sign a Paulinho or you sign Luka Modric. We just can't find an okay midfielder in between. You either sign Berbatov or you sign Soldado. Like, there's always this extreme polarising things. But it does seem that Levy has typically made his best decisions after his worst decisions. If you go back historically, I've kind of found, like, you know, 2 points from 8 games, one day Ramos, and then he brings out Harry Redknapp out of nowhere. Everyone's going, well, it seems a bit too obvious to be true. Is it really going to be that good? And then there's Tim Sherwood, which felt like such a low point. And then it's kind of, he's backed into a corner again, and then he pulls out Pochettino from nowhere. From my time following Spurs anyway, I've always found that we went through those rotations of, once Daniel's backed into a corner, he tended to really look at things and evaluate himself. And that actually, in the documentary about him, it's really interesting, that Cambridge one, basically sounded like he was a bit of going off the beaten track a bit, and his life wasn't really going anywhere, and he had a bit of a wake-up call, bucked his ideas up and went off in the right direction. And I kind of feel that's how he kind of works with Spurs. He's kind of detached himself. He's either too attached or too detached most of the time, hoping we can find the right balance for him. But it sounds like he's reevaluated the scouting system and everything now, to the point where we're actually making a bit more sensible decisions again. And super optimistic. Which brings us to the big cloud, do we call it? It's cloud, or is it? Yeah, the Harry Kane situation. But we heard today Bayern Munich's third final offer has been rejected. again, and they're going to make another final offer by the sounds of things. Does it? Some people have said in classic reactive fashion, it would destroy everything good we've done so far this window, including signing a centre back in Van der Ven if Kane left. Do you guys agree, or where are you with it?
Yeah, I agree. No, obviously, if Kane stays, it would be wonderful. I would like Kane to stay as a fan because he is the best striker in the world. He's kind of, he's the player that my brother has grown up just like. He is Tottenham to my brother, basically, at this point in time. So, and why would I not want one of the best to ever do it to stay at my club? But at the other hand, I understand that there is a need to replenish the squad after he's gone, both in terms of a new long-term striker. If you don't believe that Richarlison can do a job, I think he's okay. I definitely think he can be upgraded on. But I do think that the way that we seem to be going about it by signing players like Veliz and potentially Gift Orban, players like that is the way to go instead of buying like a new £100 million striker to replace Harry Kane, who is unreplaceable. But there are other areas of the squad we can replace. We can get another center back, which Ange has said he wanted. We can probably bolster our wing back positions, specifically right back. Unfortunately, I don't see Porro working out because he can't defend. He just can't. And maybe I'll be proven wrong. I will hope that I am, but it's not looks good. But yeah, there's pros and cons to both. But I think that the way that Tottenham have handled themselves this window, I think that either way, don't want to say I'm comfortable because I'm never comfortable with Tottenham, but I believe that there is a universe in which we make the right decisions off of the backs of whatever happens. So, gotta hope for the best, I guess.
Yeah. What about you, Spooky? Is it going to destroy the season for you if Kane leaves, or are you happy regardless what happens? You're just strapped in and content with things.
Right. This might take a couple of hours to get through. I'll try and do it in about 3 minutes. I don't want him to leave. There's no valuation that you can put on him that would make me happy to take the money. If you think of it again with logic and pragmatism, if the guy wants to leave, I think he would be happy to stay until next summer, and then he will leave for nothing, and he'll have the choice to go anywhere. My point would be that we are going to have to get used to life without Harry Kane at some point. We're going to have to move on. I think collectively, a lot of people are thinking, how do you recover from that? How do you replace Harry Kane? Well, you don't. You don't replace your greatest ever goal scorer, your greatest ever player. He's not replaceable. What you do, though, however, is you do move on. You don't have any other direction to go. You can look back and you can worry about things. I think because we're so used to him, we're going to consider the future with him being a missing part. But the reality is, collectively, we will just evolve into something different, and we will be something different, and it will be surreal. It will be strange. But we have lost a lot of great players. The last 20 years, people bang on about, we've only won a single trophy, and it's been awful, and it's like we're a poverty football club. And I'm thinking, the last 20 years have seen my favourite Tottenham Hotspur sides ever. I have to go back to 1987. And then I can cheat and talk about the early 80s, but I wasn't an actual child back then, believe it or not. So, when you look at the last 20 years, we've had some incredible players. You have watched some of the best players in our history. Bale, Modric, Kane, Berbatov, maybe to a lesser degree, but we have had incredible players. Yeah, I mean, oh my God, the one person who signed a new contract when we were absolutely rubbish and plays with a genuine smile and is, Kane's a very, very clinical. He's just the type of person Kane is. He's not someone who's very emotionally driven like Son is, and that's fine. That's not a criticism. But I'd be gutted when Son leaves. For completely different reasons. He's not as good as Kane, but he's still part of Tottenham, and he loves being part of Tottenham. I think I want Kane to stay this season because I think it offers Ange a cheat code, so to speak, while we're struggling to maybe work out the defense and how the midfield works and the rest of it, and maybe sign a striker that can play as an understudy to Kane, or maybe hope Richarlison comes good. Having Kane in the team this season just gives us that little extra dimension that goes a long way and will probably win us a lot of points. After that point, we just have to move on with it. We just have to suck it up and just look back at what he's done at the club. His people have let him down. 6-year contract is probably not the best thing he's ever done. I think the club have let him down, but he hasn't let us down. And I think as supporters, we've given him everything. So, good luck with Bayern Munich making another bid and still, coming 25 million quid under. Again, I don't know if they've got calculators out in Germany, but by this point, you should realise if you want to deal with Daniel Levy, bid the money that we are valuing him at, and take the money. So.
Same with Man City, wasn't it? They went for Kane. It was just like, we're always the bad guys in the media, though. Still,
yeah, there's an agenda there for sure. Not to go into that, but because it's quite obvious. But Kane tried to go to Manchester City. Do you know what I mean? He tried to engineer it with a round of golf with Gary Neville. We kind of forgot about that now. Deep down, what he wants to do is up to him. Do you know what I mean? We see it from the perspective of what's best for Tottenham, but that's not necessarily what's best for him at this point in his career. So I respect if he wants to move on, new adventure, whatever. Good luck to him. But I'd rather we keep him and lose him for nothing. I don't think he walks to Chelsea or does anything silly like that. Do we need the 100 million? Do we need the 95 million, whatever it is? That's another question that you guys might want to try.
That's the thing is, I think if we were offered that money for Kane like 5 years ago, if the transfer market was the same as it was 5 years ago, it's kind of in this hypothetical, I can't really describe it very well, but if all other things being equal, players cost what they did in like 2015-16, maybe I'd take the money. With the amount that players cost now, there is no way that we can get anywhere close to what Kane is valued for us. And like the 100 million, especially for where we are as a club, it's not nothing, but it's just a thing that I feel like we really should just take on the chin. Like I don't.
It's not the money. Oh, Guns, right?
No, sorry. I've swung backwards and forwards a little bit in this, and the same as Spooky, and Deej as well. Don't want them to go because for all the reasons they've already said. And when you sort of analyze where we're at now, it's a real pity in some ways, because you sort of think like if Ange had been appointed when Nuno was appointed, and we still had the years ahead on his contract at that point, then you really potentially have a lot of excitement. Because I think I personally agree exactly that point that you just made is really, really good point, because it's like the prices of players that are a fraction of unproven players in the league, even you're just not gonna get anything with 100 million, and especially even if our recruitment is better than it has been, which has been really diabolical, and until hopefully recently. But like Kane is now going to be working with Ange Postecoglu, who's engineered this system that's very much in its infancy, and he's scored 4 goals yesterday. I know it's a friendly, but he's scored 4 goals. He could have got at least another couple of goals. Other players don't take those chances the way he does. They don't get into the positions that he does. But he's got James Maddison coming in, his partner from England. Like the potential of that link up there is massive. Hopefully a rejuvenated Son, because obviously Sonny's had his operation. He had a really bad year with his injury last year and the pain he played through. I mean, there's delivery from Porro when he's on the pitch, with a Decky that's improved. Sarr, there's so many players in there that can like give him like the number of goals that he could score with the Postecoglou system is potentially pretty scary, and he could be giving Haaland a run for his money in the goal race. And I just think, God, if I'd take my chances. I'd hope that he wouldn't go to Chelsea, like Spooky says. I'm not 100% about that because if Poch is still around, I don't know if that plays towards his favour and going that way. But the other thing is about, imagine him going to Bayern Munich and even just being a neutral fan, like a player of his ability in it, like he'd be lost in a league like that because nobody watches the Bundesliga. It's Bayern's a huge team, but it's like this SPL. It's like nobody else really exists. Dortmund's there, but nobody. He's trying to like raise his profile, going to these American kind of eating chicken wings and stuff like that. And then he goes to bloody Bayern Munich. It doesn't really make any sense. Like
he's poorly advised, though, isn't it? I think that's shining through even now. Like he's like you said, to go to Bayern Munich would just be such an odd decision when in 12 months he will probably have at least 2 of Real Madrid, Man City, PSG, Chelsea. I'm not saying he'd go there. Man United.
Yeah.
And probably 1 or 2 others in stronger divisions offering him contracts on a bigger salary just to lump it out with us for 1 more year. It just feels so odd. People say always doing it to do us a favour. I don't really think someone would just throw what's best for their last 3 years of their career away because it's the kind thing to do to Tottenham fans. I don't buy that at all. It's weird. But to be honest, the one big concern I have, and interested to see if you think the same, it's not the money, because I don't care about the money because it's not my money, it's the club's money, and I don't even trust them to spend it amazingly well anyway. So I don't really care about the 100 million. But it's the disruption when in 6 months, every club we've rattled off is being linked to him. Every time Harry Kane scores a goal because the team's playing better as a whole, where would you be about Kane? Look where Spurs would be in the table if you took Kane out the team. You get all that stuff just funneling away the positivity and momentum from all these other players who need a bit of a lift, confidence boost, or on this up momentum with Ange. That's what scares me more. It's just having to have the positivity sucked out of our season as a fan sat in the stadium, getting home, turning on the radio, and it's all about Harry Kane again. Like, just let me enjoy Tottenham again. I just want to enjoy Spurs. It's so absorbing now.
When have the media ever been positive about Tottenham? Come on. Siege mentality, baby.
They're positive when they're setting us up to fail. And when they know we're going to fail. The whole Leicester season was Tottenham are amazing. They're the best team in the league. They're going to win the league. Only a bunch of clowns could cop this up, knowing that we were never going to get ahead of them. But I get your point. But equally, even him going though, it doesn't fill me with too much fear. We replaced Berbatov with Fraser Campbell, and we got better. We replaced Bale with Eric Lamela, and as a team, we got better. So I'm not
player upgrade.
Yeah. But I think that was it, isn't it, guys? I don't think there's much more else to discuss. Anything else top of mind that's come up in the Spurs sphere?
I don't know.
We haven't even talked about Van de Ven yet.
Oh, yeah, but we've exhausted him on previous pods. Well, he was in the ground, wasn't he, at Shakhtar?
He was, yeah.
Johnny, did you see it there? Was he sat near you in the West? Or? No,
didn't see him. Just saw photographs. And, I don't know. I think he's going to be really exciting, and we need somebody quick because like the chances that they had on the break they certainly could do with somebody with a bit of pace. There were some chances where Ben Davies showed that he will be upgraded upon by Van de Ven, not necessarily in just 1v1 defending, but in the chances where we are going to concede counterattacks. That is what you do when you're a possession-based team. Liverpool, famously, that is their kryptonite, is counterattacks. And that's why Klopp, whenever we play as a counterattacking side, calls us names and whatnot, which is probably my fondest memory of the Conte tenure, is riling up Jurgen Klopp for calling us a counterattacking team when everyone knows that is how you beat Liverpool. Unless, I guess, you're City, then you kind of just win anyway. But when you play in a system like that, you need a defender who's fast. Van de Ven, very fast. I'm not going to do a much more in-depth analysis. Fast player, good for this system. It's just that simple.
Yeah,
I'd love to have another one for if we do need to get stuck in. I think that there are better options for if we're playing further back against a team like a Liverpool or City. I'm not, especially because most of his time at Wolfsburg was playing as a left center back, so he had more freedom to roam, which he will have to get that kind of trained out of him, especially in his times in the Netherlands. He would go on some ridiculous center back runs, which I'm not saying I won't love against Burnley, but if he tries that against anyone in the upper half, I need to pump the brakes on that. But yeah, he's a very exciting player.
We signed Ashley Phillips, didn't we?
We did sign Ashley Phillips.
Oh yeah, of course.
He's another young player who no doubt will be one for the future. And obviously we're still looking at Tapsoba.
Yeah.
Have I got that right?
Yeah.
I don't know which pronunciation was correct. Who would be incredible if we signed him as well as Mickey? Then I think we've done. I mean, this summer transfer window has been on the money, like bang on the money, because we've covered all the areas that we needed, like a creative player in the middle with Maddison, the defence, one or two other options on the wings. It's interesting, right? Because at the minute, the thing that goes through my head is we're buying these players because we've already agreed to sell Harry Kane, and all this is just Spurs prolonging the saga so that we don't get other clubs demanding more money, knowing that we have 100 million sitting there from the Kane transfer. This is like proper tinfoil hat stuff now, right? Because the defensive mechanism is to be a bit paranoid about Spurs, because it's never over until it's over. And we know deadline day always lasts a minute to midnight or whenever it ends these days. Something tends to happen and you're like, oh, bloody hell, like we thought we got away with it and, we've sold him. But if we keep buying players and we keep Kane, and we do manage to move on a few in that last week, then I think we're good for the season. I think we're robust. I think domestically we can look at both cups. It's about competition. It's about being able to rotate and not be weak. And last 4 years, really, even under Pochettino at times, we would rotate, and the players that were playing were fringe players who had absolutely no desire, no focus to be able to perform at the level that you want them to perform when they're coming in to play. So I think we're being streamlined. That doesn't mean that we should just stop signing players right now. We're going to get greedy, and I think we should keep doing work all the way up to the last week, and give the manager everything that he needs to kind of build that culture and to give us back that identity that we have lacked. I think that's all we want as a fan base. When you see that, you buy into it, and then that togetherness is it kind of allows you to take the bad results, knowing that that you're starting a journey, that you're going in a direction, you're heading towards something. It isn't just this, whatever it was under Conte, who seemed to be a consultant most of the time, like slating the club and the players. He wasn't. There wasn't. He was saying. People often say Conte's the best thing that's happened to Tottenham. How'd you make that out?
Those are the same people who said Mourinho were the best thing that happened to Tottenham. Saying things that are true, and they're not saying things that are arguably true, but they're not offering a solution to them. Is not, to me, that doesn't. I can do that. We can all do that. We can see what the problems are at Tottenham. So how you take the job on, you're not going to get 300, 400 million quid war chest. You're going to work with what you got and maybe buy a few players, which we did for him. We spent over 200 million quid. Just get on with it. Stop complaining. Stop moaning. And I think Postecoglu, he's a no BS type of manager, right? He says it exactly how it is. Doesn't dress it up. Doesn't distract. Doesn't deflect. And you feel that he represents Tottenham. And again, real basic things here, but we want that. We want to feel like we're part of something, and we're not fighting each other and fighting what it means to be Spurs. And we all know the club itself has its own identity crisis. The ticket prices, one or two other decisions they've made. Maybe that's just modern football, and maybe I am really ancient, and I still remember the days of paying 10 quid at a turnstile and going into the East Stand. Those days are gone, and maybe we have to recalibrate as well with some of the things. But I'm on a tangent here, so I'll stop.
it's funny because Spooky was talking about the people who've said that Conte or Mourinho was the best thing to happen to Spurs, because my closing kind of thought was that not that it's the best thing of all time, but the appointment of Postecoglu for me is the best appointment or best decision of the summer, and because of his strength of personality, because of his confidence and his methods, his means, because it completely tallies with our identity, our way of, you know, the traditions of the club, and what the supporters want and expect to see, which we've been denied for these last few years. And because of the fact that, okay, yeah, again, you have to recognise that you're going to see what the club wants you to see, or hear what you know players are going to be comfortable saying in public and all of that. But everything that you can see so far in terms of interviews, new players coming in, especially like somebody, I was watching an interview with James Maddison this afternoon. He had a TalkSport, and it was like, just there is a genuine sort of effervescent feeling of positivity, and yeah, like if Kane goes, it's obviously a massive disappointment, but there is still a lot of really quality players there. We've got a manager who is going to just get on with whatever the reality is, and I think we've got now a situation where probably fifth place gets the Champions League, and when we look at the competition, like I wouldn't want to. I mean, Ange doesn't give a shit what I think, obviously, but like when you're looking at the season ahead, and you hear people ask what defines success and all of that. Well, I wouldn't put a kind of maybe a quantitative criteria for measuring that, because it is more about like where we're going, and because the fact it's a 4-year appointment. But for me, I do sort of think that the fact that we don't have European football, other clubs like Brighton and Villa are in Europe, Newcastle are going in the Champions League now. There are things that are certainly in our favour that have kind of worked for Arsenal in the last few years as well, where we kind of can, with Ange, I would genuinely think that fifth is up for, it's not out of the question at all. I think City and the unmentionables probably will finish in the top two, and then Liverpool, for me, probably maybe made the best signings outside of them. But out from that, United, Newcastle, Spurs, Chelsea, like we could finish, above. We could finish fourth or fifth. I definitely think there's, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But there's, do you know what I mean? And I don't want to make that mistake. And if we don't, I don't expect that we will. But there's going to be a really interesting season.
Let's get ahead of ourselves. We're winning the league.
But it does remind me a bit of like when Klopp joined Liverpool, and they were still missing that centre back, and the goalkeeper situation was a bit shaky. But he was coming in; he was going to play nice progressive football. And what he does that I like that Ange does is the media ask him a question, and it's so obvious what they're trying to do, and they're trying to kind of build a narrative with the guy or get him to say something they can spin out of context on a headline the next morning. But he's so good at just shutting that down and making it feel like, no, I'm on the side of my fans. Don't mess with them. This is us, beat you. I get that with Ange as well, where I feel like we might get that camaraderie where everyone else goes, I hate that guy. But we just worship the man for what he's doing, and he kicks us forward in the same way. So it's super, super exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. But
he was great. He was great at winding up Jim. Really great at winding up the Rangers supporters, and the connection with the Celtic supporters was ridiculous. And
can you touch on that before we finish, Johnny? Actually, because I've only got 2 minutes. But how did he wind up the Rangers support? I'm interested. I want to see him doing this with us.
Well, whenever Rangers there was hype about them, he never he always was focusing on how much better the Celtic were than Rangers. Like, he didn't get drawn into it, and he sort of would make dismissive remarks, like he's not interested by them, But he did it in a really kind of comical way. It's just clearly the history of the old firm is like off the charts, really. But he kind of put them down by not giving them sort of time of day sort of thing, and obviously his recognition of what Celtic meant as a club was was like very much like what Klopp's done at Liverpool as well. It's quite a good comparison because he's some geezer from whereabouts in Germany, but he's a Scouse, really, isn't it? And I think that hopefully, although Ange supports Liverpool, he can turn North London, and develop a Cockney twang or something. But no, yeah.
I've got to end there, guys, but thanks so much all for joining. And thanks again, Spook. I don't know if you want to shout out your Twitter or Filthy Shambles podcast. I know everyone knows the Fighting Cock, but it's an outstanding podcast, and I'd really recommend it if you're looking to add to your playlists.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thanks, Deej, and thanks, Johnny. And
up the Spurs.
Up the Spurs.
Cheers,
Spurs.